Prepare to immerse yourself in the stories that shape our world as we delve deeper, explore further, and uncover the truths hidden beneath the surface. Join us on a quest for knowledge, understanding, and connection. From the corridors of power to the hearts of communities, no story is too vast, no detail too small. Coming up next on Southside FM 107.2, Beyond the Headlines.
On the 25th of March, 2024. Good afternoon and welcome to Beyond the Headlines with me, Leah Ganesan. You're tuned in to Southside FM's live current affairs program, where we have reports, discussions, and interviews on the stories that matter to you. Safe water and sanitation are essential to the health of all Africans as well as to the social and economic development of their countries. Yet millions lack access to both. Despite government's commitment to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and the African Union's Agenda 2063, most countries are not on track to meet their objective of ensuring the availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. According to the 2023 Africa Sustainable Development Report, 411 million Africans still lack access to safe water, and almost three-fourths don't benefit from safely managed sanitation services. Water has been a major talking point recently in the province. Many residents are facing ongoing water cuts. Today, we will be speaking with a community leader to discuss that issue. But before that, let me give you our program for today. Coming up in Beyond the Headlines, Benoni and Bloemfontein have reportedly have the worst air pollution in Africa. And economic freedom fighters leader Julius Malema has urged South Africans to vote out the ruling African National Congress in the upcoming elections. And lastly, residents of Durban await answers after staging a march to the Durban City Hall as water issues continue. Later on, we'll be speaking to community leader Assad Ghaffar on that issue. And as always, we'll round it up with your economic report and, of course, some top sports stories for you. Let's get right into your current affairs. Benoni and Bloemfontein have the worst air pollution in Africa. This is according to the results of the 2023 World Air Quality Report. The two cities were found to have poor air quality that exceeds the World Health Organization's guidelines 10 times. The Swiss company, IQ Air, collected its data for the report from more than 30,000 air quality monitoring stations in 134 countries. Other towns and cities that were found to have poor air quality in South Africa are Vereniging, Brits, and Alexandra. So moving on from that, economic freedom fighters leader Julius Malema has urged South Africans to vote out the ruling African National Congress in the upcoming elections. Malema has addressed the party's supporters at the Gugulethu Stadium in the Western Cape. He blamed the country's leaders for leading the nation into many of the problems it is facing. Malema says South Africa is in trouble because it is led by criminals. Now, whether or not the last statement is true, we'll have to, we just have to figure that one out. I mean, we can see in certain articles and obviously our news, we know what's happening, but we can't comment further on that. What we can comment on, though, is that he is right that there are many problems that we're currently facing, especially the issue of service delivery, which is why, moving on to our next story, we see that residents of Durban await answers after staging a march on Human Rights Day to the Durban City Hall as water issues continue. Residents from Verulam, Phoenix, Tongaat, Liberty, and surrounding areas staged a sit-in at the City Hall, waving a list of service delivery-related issues that they want addressed by the eThekwini Metro leadership. Among those issues raised was that of the incessant water outages and the lack of water tankers to supply potable water. Community members have said that the water scarcity has reached a critical point. The well-being of countless families is now being threatened. And the eThekwini mayor, Mxolisi Kaunda, his spokesperson, surprisingly says he can't confirm receiving the memorandum that the protesters had handed them on Thursday because Thursday was a public holiday. So on that topic, of course, we have our community leader, Assad Ghaffar. Mr. Ghaffar, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, and thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So, can you tell us firstly, how long has the water issue persisted in your area? Briefly describe what that experience has been like for people in your community.
Look, water issues have been going on for a long time now. It's either it comes on for a few hours and then goes off for a couple of days. Um, the most recent one, obviously, was a major repair that needed to be conducted, and that water outage was for about almost 3 days. That was total 24 hours of no water.
So, how do you manage that, or how are other community members that you know of? How are they managing that in terms of work and school? What What are other alternatives that you've been using in the meantime?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's a bit of a challenge. And many people, when you speak to them and you ask them, make a choice, choose your poison, many will say we prefer to be without electricity if we had to choose, but we certainly can't do without water. And for many reasons. I mean, you can't bath, you can't cook a meal, you can't use the toilet, obviously, and then you can't drink water because you either have to buy water. So it's a major challenge. We were fortunate in that we had businesses who were partnered with us and provided us with water tankers, and we were taking this through throughout the suburb and taking it to the community. So we were lucky in that regard. But I mean, if you the water issue is not limited just to Westville, as you rightfully pointed out in your introduction, the residents of Tonga, Verulam, Phoenix, these communities have been plagued with water outages for more than 3.5, 4 years. There are communities out in Inanda, Richmond Farm. They've not had a single drop of water for over 4 years in the taps. So the city obviously is not listening. They're not spending the money in the right place, and all of this needs to change. We can't carry on like this.
Very true. So, what are some of the efforts? You've been facing this for a while now. So, what are some of the efforts that you've made to bring attention to the issue, and what has been done in response to that?
Last year, we went on a total boycott against the city, and that was because they failed to listen to us. They failed to have proper engagements with the community. This year, we're seeing a lot more, amenable municipality. They are listening. They want to have meetings. They have started the public participation process a lot earlier than previous years. We're hoping that we can sit down and we can, have proper engagements and discussions in terms of what the city needs to look like going forward. Whether we take the increase or we don't take the increase, but we still need to have those engagements. Should those engagements break down, then unfortunately, all the residents of eThekwini need to stand together, and we need to make a firm stance or take a firm stance against the city because, like we said last year, if you don't take this a firm stand against the city, they will continue to introduce whatever tariff increase they want to. And as you can see from what's being proposed now, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Right. And the government says that the ongoing water issues are due to aging infrastructure, due to vandalism, and some of the issues that we've been experiencing in the province over the past few years in terms of riots and floods. So they've asked the community, they've asked people to be patient while they resolve the issue. What are your feelings on the municipality's call to just trust the process, to trust them, and to be patient during all of this?
Look, at the end of the day, aging infrastructure will always be an issue. Whether it's at eThekwini, whether it's Pretoria, whether it's Cape Town, that's not the issue. I mean, This municipality has taken over this infrastructure 30 years ago. And it goes without saying that they needed to be servicing it, servicing the infrastructure and maintaining the infrastructure. That's what good governments do. What the eThekwini municipality has failed to do in the last 30 years is to do those regular maintenance and the proper repairs. Um, and that's where the problem is coming about. So even I mean, most of the infrastructure are not indestructible. They do have a lifespan, and the city needed to have capitalized budgets for the repairs or the replacements of the infrastructure. So to simply just come out there in the media and say, "Oh, but we inherited age infrastructure. That's why we're sitting with the problem." That's not the answer to the problems, because you chose to be in government, and you needed to have plans in place to ensure that we didn't reach a point where the infrastructure now totally collapsed, which is what we're seeing. And then instead of fixing, you're now saying is going to cost a good couple of 100 billion, which they don't have. And 15, 20 years ago, the discussion around the infrastructure was raised. And the city then made a proposal to capitalize 5 billion a year to set it aside to the revitalization of the infrastructure. And that never happened. That money disappeared. So the problem is poor governance on behalf of the city. They're not taking their job seriously, and as residents, they can't be expecting us, who are the ratepayers, whether they like it or not. We are the ones who are funding, financially, we are funding the city, and they must listen to us and they must take us seriously.
That's very true. So, with all of that in mind and elections approaching, do you think that these issues are going to have an effect on how your community will vote in terms of, maybe changing a ward councillor, or do you feel like it's a much higher issue than your ward councillor and it might not affect how you vote?
Yeah, it's not just the ward councillor, it's at a much higher level. And many people are saying make your vote count, be careful who you vote for. But again, they're not understanding the real issues. Um, Without a doubt, the ANC has failed this country, not just at eThekwini. But you'll hear them saying, if you want your infrastructure to be repaired, vote ANC. If you want to end corruption, vote ANC. You want to end load shedding, vote ANC. And I think people are fed up of hearing all of these things. And then the question then comes about, who do you vote for? And I can tell you this much, because we're working with most of these leaders. The sad part is, as much as the ANC has let this country down, much of the opposition parties have let this country down. So it's not to say that if you vote for an opposition party, things will change and improve. That's not going to happen. They don't have a magic wand. It's left to be seen. To be honest with you, it's left to be seen. And I'll give you a current live example of the disingenuous nature of politics. We have what you call a tariff increase that's being proposed now on an adjustment budget. And here in eThekwini, we don't have an executive mayor because the ANC did not get a two-thirds majority, which means there's a coalition government in place in eThekwini. And when that happens, you then get what you call an executive council. So there isn't an executive mayor, there's an executive council, and this is made up of all political parties. It's a proportional representation of all the citizens of eThekwini, right? So that's how the executive council positions come about. Now, when it came to this tariff increase, all all opposition parties had the opportunity to open the discussion and raise any questions as to why this tariff increase needs to happen. Because again, the tariff increases doesn't come from the ANC; it comes from the administration, obviously controlled by the ANC. But it's the administration that will table the tariff increases, and they will table it to the executive council, and the executive council is supposed to call whoever is tabling these tariff increases to come and give them an explanation, and if that explanation is tangible, then the executive council needs to vote it in. But if those tariff increases are not tangible, then the executive council should reject it. That's the natural order of things. Now, you find that, I mean, if you talk about opposition parties, there's major opposition parties, meaning the DA, the EFF, the IFP, and Action SA. These are the big players on the scene. And you would have expected a big party like the DA to have rejected this tariff increase, but they didn't. They accepted it. And the only reason they accepted it is because they wanted to ensure that their salaries or the increase in their salaries have been secure. They didn't, there was no other explanation, or there's no other logical explanation as to why they accepted this, other than that, you know what, it's their pockets that they feel will get hurt. Because now they are saying we reject the tariff increase, but they brought it into play. You get what I'm saying? Now, when they brought it into play, they know that it will now go to a full council decision. And at the full council decision, the
Right.
ANC and the EFF coalition is going to vote it in. So whatever they tell us now, oh, we're not happy with the increase and blah, 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 that's all optics. They brought it into play. They mustn't come and play these games with their constituents, and people buy into this that, the DA always gets outvoted because of the big bad ANC. That's not how it is. They're lying. And they've been doing so for the last 30 years, I would say.
Right. So you've basically said throughout this interview that, at this point, all options have been exhausted. Almost all options have been exhausted. And you mentioned that if nothing happens now, obviously you'd have to be a bit more firm. What would being a bit more firm entail at this point, since you've gone through, boycotting and you've gone through marches and protests? What would be more firm than that now? What else could you do?
Well, the protest or the withholding of funds is still an option. We
Okay.
haven't parked that. We did do it last year, and we didn't get the support that we liked. But this year, much more people are actually calling for it. And if we get the support of all the ratepayers, guaranteed we will be successful. I mean, you're looking at just around 500,000 ratepayers, so to speak, because there are some people that don't pay rates, but they buy electricity or on a prepaid system, and they pay for water. So there's around 500,000 of us that's sustaining a population of 3.2 million people in eThekwini. And that's unsustainable. We cannot continue in this fashion, and they cannot continue to raise tariffs on us that are law abiding and paying. And whilst they are, partying and spending the money frivolously, they're not using it in the right way. And we must continue to fund this. It's ridiculous. And anyone who supports this municipality or is prepared to continue paying tariff increases, then there's something wrong with those people.
Thank you for that. Just lastly, before I let you go, as I mentioned in my intro, the eThekwini mayor, Kolisi Kaunda, his spokesperson says that after the march on Thursday, he can't confirm receiving the memorandum regarding the issue with service delivery, specifically water, because Thursday was a public holiday. How do you feel about that? What do you feel that says about where the municipality's mind is at, and how do you feel as a citizen, as a ratepayer? How do you feel about that attitude?
Look, yeah, look, it was a public holiday. We were made aware of this march that was going to take place on that holiday. We were invited to it, and we reached out to the organizers to ask those very same questions. Will you be issuing a memorandum? Who will be there to receive the memorandum? It's all well and good to jump and scream and make a noise for the purpose of doing it and for optics, for people to see that you're doing something. The question that we ask as an organization, and we continue to ask this question to all other ratepayers associations, whatever it is that you do, what is the desired outcome from that action? And how will it benefit your ratepayers or those individuals that you represent? And this is a question that needs to be asked all the time. Now let's go back to the organizers of that march on the public holiday. Go and look at the visuals, and you will see for yourself the people that were present there. And it doesn't take much to add 2 plus 2, and you can see who were the people in the crowd. And for us, that's a problem, because you can't take a thing like no water and politicize it and expect to bring past deputy mayors and make it seem as though that we're there for the people, because those individuals have direct access. They have direct access to the ANC. They have direct access to individuals in the city, and they're failing to fix this issue in Tongat and Verulam. And we got no time for politics. So yes, it is disappointing that to hear that remark from the mayor. But I don't blame him, to be honest with you. If you didn't tell him to come there to collect the memorandum, how do you expect him to collect it? And then you blame the mayor to say, oh well, he's saying that he never get the memorandum. But did you call him? Did you tell him that you're coming to give him a memorandum on a public holiday?
Mm.
I don't think they did.
Right. Very important. Thank you so much for your input. Thank you for shedding some more light on the situation. Everyone needs to know more about the issue if they aren't going through it. And we thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, that was Mr. Asad Ghaffar, a community leader from Westville, speaking on the water issue, a very important issue that we all need to keep in mind. If you're not going through it, make sure you are staying informed and that you can also try to support in any way that you can. For now, though, here is your economic report. Gold has gained 0.03%, selling at $2,165.03 a fine ounce. A barrel of Brent crude costs $85.20. The US dollar range for the day is between 18 Rand 91 and 19 Rand 3 cents, but it is currently at 18 Rand 96, still sitting below that 19 Rand mark. 1 British pound is 23 Rand 90 cents, 1 euro is 20 Rand 52, and the dirham is trading at 5 Rand 16 cents. It's currently 4 rupees 40 in Indian rupees to the Rand and 2 rupees 44 in Mauritian rupees to the Rand. Bitcoin is down by 4.13%, currently trading at $66,893.88. Moving on quickly to your sport now. Sport is a tricky thing. It takes some time to process certain results. Let's see, taking a look at cricket first. A maiden career half century by Sinethemba Teshile helped the Daphabet Warriors maintain their dream start to the CSA T20 Challenge season with a 6th win in 6 matches. They're on a run. The latest victory came in the form of a comfortable 24-run triumph over Auto Investments Northwest Dragons yesterday. There was also a first win of the campaign for GBet's Rocks after they overcame Hollywood Bet's Dolphins by 4 wickets in an earlier game of an action-packed doubleheader weekend that also saw 2 games played in Johannesburg on Saturday. Double-capped Proteas wicketkeeper Teshile played his 50th T20. He played a key role for his side, who extended their advantage at the summit of the table to 10 points over DP World Lions, thanks to their latest victory. After winning the toss and batting, the Eastern Cape side amassed 186 for 5 at Daphabet St. George Park Cricket Stadium, with Matthew Brietzke, Jordan Herman, and Patrick Kruger also making key contributions. Peshile remained unbeaten on 51 of 30 balls. With the ball, Bayas Swanepoel, Ronaldo Maya, and JP King all claimed 2 wickets each and regularly chipped away at the Dragons' batting lineup, not allowing them to settle. Meanwhile, in the earlier game, Mark Ackerman smashed an unbeaten 50 off 32 balls. Kaya Zondo hit 35, and Bryce Parsons, last week's star, made 31 to lift the Dolphins to 158 for 4 after they lost the toss and were asked to bat first. Clinton Stearman and Sean von Berg both impressed with the ball for the Pals side, who then chased down the total in 19.3 overs thanks to a blistering performance by Christian Jonker. Von Berg, too, played a vital role by landing 26 of 16 balls, playing an important support role for veteran Jonker, who finished the game with 3 sixes and 2 fours in a 26-ball 40. Moving on, the South African MotoGP driver Brad Binder put in another solid performance on his Red Bull KTM, but came up short in his hunt for a spot in the podium at the Grand Prix in Portugal. Binder started the race in 10th place after falling during qualifying and in the sprint race. The 28-year-old managed to keep both wheels under him during yesterday's race, and thanks to mistakes from Marc Marquez, Francesco Bagnaia, and Maverick Vidales, Binder passed the checkered flag in 4th place. Binder is still second on the championship standings, 18 points behind yesterday's winner, Jorge Martin. Staying in motorsport, in Formula One, Spanish driver Carlos Sainz has given Ferrari their first win of the season with an impressive display during Sunday's Australian Grand Prix. Sainz broke Red Bull's winning streak after technical trouble for Max Verstappen in the opening laps that forced the reigning world champion to retire. Bidding for a record-equaling 10th victory in a row, Verstappen maintained his pole position advantage as the race got underway. However, by the second lap, the Dutch driver reported issues behind the wheel. A compromised second lap opened the door for Sainz to get a run on Verstappen and make a move for the lead. The victory comes just 2 weeks after Sainz had missed a Grand Prix to undergo surgery to remove his appendix. Maybe we should all lose an organ to be that good, because Carlos Sainz and his teammate Charles Leclerc passed the checkered flag together to give Ferrari their first 1-2 finish since 2022. If you didn't manage to catch that race live, I'd recommend you watch the highlights. It was probably, I know it's too soon, maybe being only 3 races into the season, but I think that will be one of the most exciting races of this season. Thank you so much for watching or listening rather, to our current affairs program today. That is the end of our program for today. A special thanks to our production team. That's Mr. Ashok Ramsarup, Manik Thor, Rishali Subalak, and Dishagan Sithabasad. Most importantly, thank you. I hand you back to JK.